Welcome to another edition of NOLA WarGaming. Today I've got a battle between Martin Van Buren's 2,500 point Dark Elves versus every unpainted miniature that Bone67 owns. Yep, all of them are Orcs and Goblins. He's got a few painted armies, just not this one. So let's move on to deployment. Here, this is Martin's army. It's a little bit of Dark Riders, a whole bunch of Brolocks, and his mobile characters. And this whole flank could shift over to the right side almost immediately if it wanted to. So Orcs are going to have a big problem adjusting to this. On the right side and in the center, you've got the Witch Elves, and then you've got the Dark Riders. So they're just there to keep the right flank honest. Here's the magic he picks up. He's got a level 2 of metal. I think that she's in with the Witch Elves. She never takes any hits for being a non-Witch Elf character in the unit. And then the other two are just the standard spells you pick up for the Brolocks. Obviously, he's got that twice because, you know, Brolocks. I changed my camera. Still sucks. And I take a whole bunch of pictures of the table sides. It's not just one. It's not two. It's generally 3 or 4 to make sure I get it right. This was the best picture. The other ones are unspeakably bad. Anyway, so this is the side that's facing all of that horrible nastiness with the Brolocks, the Dragon, and the BSB. And Boned simply has a couple of Bolt Throwers, some Spider Riders, some Arrow Boys, and a Mangler, kind of the Arachnarok and the Giant to guard against all that stuff. It's not looking good. But he does have the Savage Orcs with the Shrunken Head, a BSB, and a Black Orc Lord to make sure that the unit doesn't animosity and not do what he wants it to do. Right next to them is a little sacrificial troll, then a unit of Night Goblins with a level 1 Orc Shaman. I'm not quite sure why he chose the level 1 Orc Shaman. Then Mangler, Spider Riders, and a gigantic spider whose kit I don't know. He picks up a pretty decent haul of magic. He's got the Foot of Gork on the level 4, which is always a great spell, and then he picked up Hand of Gork on the little baby mage. So here's the turn 1 move. Dark Elves obviously went first, and we're pretty cautious, I'd say, as far as these guys could have vanguarded up, then they could have just run all the way up into the front end of the face of the Orcs. But he stayed pretty conservative, hanging back. That 1 is just to indicate what turn it is, not that there's a wound on the BSB. There's the Dragon. He kind of scooted over a little bit, so he's more in the center of the table. The Witch Elves, I don't think, moved up at all. So here's the first spell of the game, Soul Blighting the Spider Riders. Yep, he was worried that he might not kill enough either to kill them all or drive them off. So this is the other side of the table. The Dark Riders take aim at those spiders and kill off a couple and drive them off. Which, if any of you have ever played as or against Orcs and Goblins, know that this happens almost all the time. 60% of the time, happens every time. On the other side, somehow the soul-blooded spiders managed to keep one around. But he decided to flee anyway. And the gigantic spider, this is why I never got to figure out what his kit was. He dies immediately to bolt throwers. Even sitting in the woods, they still get him. And I think he just pot-shotted the goblins for a couple. Nothing big. So here's the first animosity roll of the game. And now the goblins will just stay here, staring at their Dark Elf opponents, doing not much. I'm not sure if there was a huge plan to use these guys, but they don't do a whole lot. And these guys don't rally. They'll run off the board next turn. The other guy runs off immediately. And here's him pushing forward as fast as he can. He knows that he's just going to get shot up if he stays back there. So everything goes forward except for that 1 unit of squabbling Night Goblins. Here's the left side. He's kind of crashed in the center with the Arachnarok and the Giant. Looks like he's really just abandoning that left flank. And here's his first spell. He ended up with 3 dice total. So this is all his dice. We were ragging on him that he should be casting Brain Burst or something meaningless to kill a champion or something. So He decides, nope, I'm going to kick out Foot of Gork. I'm going to kick out the small version, and he casts it with the double 6. So he's got this on the Witch Elves, and it immediately scatters off the Witch Elves. And then he rolls to forget the spell and another spell. So much for magic for the level 4. So now the Arrow Boys have to prove their worth. I mean, they only have to deal with a BSB on the Pegasus, some Brolocks, a unit of Dark Riders over there, and then another unit of Brolocks. But don't worry, guys. They got this. And one Dark Rider goes down. Well, that's more than I expected, so kudos. And then there's this Bolt Thrower. This Super Ninja Bolt Thrower. He spots his nemesis across the table, takes aim, and he just kills him. No problem. I mean, he only needed 5s to hit the guy all the way across the table. And then it's a strength 7, it's toughness 7, so he needs 5s to wound it. And then he's got to roll a 3+ to kill both the crew. Nope. Totally nails it. This guy, on the other hand, decides to derp. Just turns around. He's not going to shoot next turn either. And here's the table, top of turn 2. Ugh. Alright, here comes the BSB. He just charges right into those Arrow Boys. Those guys are not long for this world. The rest of his army just moves backwards. I guess he thinks that he's got the shooting advantage, which obviously he does. But I feel he could have been a bit more aggressive here. Martin is a newer player, so he's seen what those savages can do, and I think he's got probably a not quite rational fear of the Arachnarok and the Giant. I mean, they look big and scary, but when you've got the Brolocks with all those poison attacks and those rerolls to hit, oh, it just murders through those guys. And here's the Dark Riders moving to the flank of the Chariot. Shooting only does a single wound to that Chariot. I think he expected to kill it off. He probably could have just charged the front of it. And this is disappointing. He only kills 3 guys. With the charge and the pony and then the stomps, I thought he might get 4 or 5, but he only gets 3. I guess it doesn't make much of a difference because he wasn't going to get through the first rank anyway. They decide to hold. Here's the Mangler going full speed forward. He actually went 17 inches to get to that spot. Bone was complaining about how he had 1 more inch to get through the witches. But, I mean, that 1 inch was a 666, and he was pretty lucky just to get the 6, 6, and 5. So, he should count his blessings on that one. Everything else just pushes forward. He's got to pin him against the wall. Unfortunately, he really has only pinned the Witch Elves against the wall. I mean, the Brolocks and the Dark Riders and the Dragon can all just spin to the side if they want to. There's the Troll going full tilt chaff mode. I mean, if he decides to charge through the Mangler at the Troll, at anything, he's going to have to hit the Troll. I mean, the whole point is just to keep him off the Savages for a turn, I think. And here's the Night Golems just bring up the rear. Boar Chariot moving forward. So, Gaze of Mork. Incredibly destructive spell. Kills off a guy. I mean, it really just chokes you up inside to see that one Witch Elf perish like that. And then we have the Super Ninja Bolt Thrower once again. Taking aim at its target. A unit of Brolocks. And killing all 3 of them. Just 1 guy left now. And here he kills off a couple of Orcs, and they just take off running. The BSB doesn't pursue, he just reforms. So here's how the table looks at the top of turn 3. The BSB, predictably, charges into that super awesome Bolt Thrower. Truly, the Bolt Thrower of Bolt Throwers. The last of that little Brolock unit just runs and sacrifices itself to the gods of Mangler Squigs. And the other Brolocks just run backwards, just scoot away. There's a dragon running off the left side. And there's some chaff. So he's just kicking up all the Dark Riders to get in the way. He really could have charged here and just knocked out the Chariot. Instead, he just wants to shoot at it again and hopefully kill it off. And if the Witch Elves weren't horrible enough Then now they have enchanted blades. Over here, he shoots the Mangler to death. And in combat, that bolt thrower of bolt throwers, truly the manliest goblin ever, managed to only take 1 wound from that BSB, and then sticks on a 3. Charge, wound, and that's it. Alright, so now we have the Orc and Goblin charge phase. Now, the Ragnarok is trying to go after the Brolocks here. They're just going to hang around. What happens here is I think the Savages tried to charge the Dark Riders. They flee. They redirect into the Witches. And the Giant charges the Dark Riders. Here, the Giant catches the Dark Riders. There's a failed charge by the Ragnarok. I think it's an incredibly small fail by the Orcs. Actually, the Troll is going to charge in here as well. Nope, I guess it's the next turn. I might be confusing that one. There's the little boar chariot trying to get away, but he's just going to fail it and move up a few inches. That guy's just not going to live now. There he is. Oh, the Arrow Boys rally. So cute. And there's the troll doing his whole troll thing. Yep. That poor bolt thrower. He couldn't live another turn and just got killed off. And there's the BSB just hopping on top of there. Alright, this is how the table looks top of turn 4. Just charges into that worthless bolt thrower that just couldn't do anything. And here he's finally tired of the chariot, so he's just going to charge in and get rid of it. Brolocks scoot further away because they're really afraid of the Ragnarok and the Giant. I think he could have charged in and knocked out the Ragnarok this turn. But instead, knocked out the Giant, overrun the Ragnarok, and still been out of line of sight of the Savages. But instead, he just runs all the way over here. The Dragon just hopped behind the lines, just getting ready to charge the Savages the next turn. Enchanted Blades again on this unit. I would not want to face that unit. There's the Dark Elf shooting phase. He just knocks off a couple of wounds on the Giant. And then he knocks off a couple of wounds on the Troll. And that Troll's still alive, just hanging on with his 1 wound. And obviously that bolt thrower just wasn't going to do it. He just wasn't as cool as the guy next to him. And yeah, that thing was just not... it's just a chariot. Unfortunately, he decides to overrun 11 inches. And there's the Fanatics. And there goes the Dark Riders. So, at least those goblins accomplished something, even if it was just killing off a unit of Dark Riders. So, here's the Orc and Goblin 4 charge phase. The Giant is going to charge the War Machine. Hilarity ensues. Trust me. And the Ragnarok decides to charge the Brolocks again. I personally think this will herald the end of the Ragnarok. Until this happens. Yep. He failed his terror check and ran right off the table. With the Dragon being where he was and the BSB on the other side of the table, it was a very reasonable chance Brolocks were going to run off, and all of them did. All 10 of them. Obviously, the Giant makes his charge. Here's the Savages. They pick up Here We Go. And then he hand of Gorks the Spider into a better position. Yeah. Actually, in this turn, what happened was the Savages tried to charge into the Witches. But to do that, he needed the Troll to charge in too. So he charged the Troll and the Savages into this Witch Elf horde. The Savages only rolled like a 1, or so. They rolled abysmally low to get to the Witches and just hopped forward an inch. The Troll obviously made it, and he did not survive all of those pointy, stabby poison blades that went flying at his face. I'm not even sure they rolled this combat. So, this is where we learned a valuable lesson about giants and little versus big on table. Apparently, the War Machine is on the large, it used to be the small and large table, but it's on the larger table. So it's got a 1 to 2, it yells and balls. A 3 and 4, it's got to take an initiative check. And a 5 or 6, it headbutts a guy. And this time it headbutted a guy, which, as you can see, takes a little while to kill off a bolt thrower crew like this. So that means the only way that he can really do damage is by rolling a 5 or 6, because the Dark Elves are going to pass their initiative check all the time for 3 and 4. And with a decent leadership, if he rolls a 1 or 2, he'll probably stick around anyway. And these guys stick. So here's what the table looks like, top turn 5. Finally, we see some action. Witch Elves are charging into the Savages. The Dragon's charging into some Savages. So it's going to be a big old Savage sandwich. Hey, buddy. So this is what it looks like. That is a horrible sight to behold right there. But he does have Here We Go on the Savages. Moving forward, BSB just moves on up. Shooting knocks off some goblins. Nobody cares. Here's the giant again, doing nothing. He rolled a 3 or a 4, and he just passed the initiative check. Once I saw that, I was telling him that I thought the giant was going to die in combat to get this against this little guy. This is the dead pile from that combat. So an enormous number of Savages takes damage, an enormous number of Witch Elves takes damage. I think the Witch Elf, the hag on the cauldron, dies. So it's just a slaughterfest here. Unfortunately, you can see that Savage pile is much larger than the Witch pile. And this happens. They run and hop on the Fanatic, which is always good, you know? So this is what's left of the unit. You have 2 characters, the level 4 and the Black Orc Lord, and then you have the 2 PUDs. And there's the rest of the units. Just couldn't catch them. Just all rolled very low. So during the Orc and Goblin player's turn, he rolls to rally, but he needs double 1s. Runs straight through the BSB. And what was great about this is he's got to take a dangerous terrain check, 4 of them actually. Well, he fails 2 of them. One was on the Savage, on the Savage Wizard, and the other was on a PUD. So he's just got 1 PUD that's keeping this unit from rallying. And that guy's just, don't worry guys, I'll get you out of here. And here's the Savages. They're just, well, not dead. That's it. So this is what the board looks like after the Orc and Goblins have kind of moved. The Ragnarok charged into the flank of those witches. I think that's probably going to be the end of the witches. I mean, he's got 16 attacks, 8 from the spider, 8 from the goblin up top. And all he's got to do is knock out a few witches, even with a Thunder Stomp, and he should break the Steadfast. Goblins just kind of move forward a little bit. And yeah, there's the giant. Not doing anything. Way to go, buddy. So this is actually the combat against those witches. This is the spider's roll. The goblin's roll was equally abysmal, but this is what the spider rolled. All those 1s and only a couple of hits. I think he actually only does 1 wound out of those hits. And he wins combat by 1 or something like that. They hold because they're steadfast, and they just turn to face the spider. And this might not be a very pleasant experience for the spider. But at least the frenzy's gone. So the Dark Elf BSB just charges those goblins. They take off running. They're good. The dragon just plows into those guys. He needed to roll. Bone needed to roll high, but he didn't. And the spider just catches. Not the spider. The dragon just catches him. And he gets off both Enchanted Blades and the Glittering Robes. The giant finally kills off that bolt thrower. I think he headbutted it again. And the spider just murders that unit this time. I'm not sure what he was thinking about the first time, but he just ate all the witches. I think it was only the cauldron at that point. I guess the cauldron and the wizard, and just chased it down after it fled. We tallied up all the points, and it turned out it was only a 195-point victory difference. Victory for Martin, obviously. But I thought this game was going to be much, much different than it ended up turning out. After I saw that flank, I thought he was just going to crash straight through and surround the Savages and just destroy them on turn 4 or 5. but Martin was really conservative with all those Brolock units, and as a result, it kind of let Bone stay in this game a lot longer than I expected. But next time, we talked about it after the game, and I think he's going to be a lot more active with those Brolocks in the future. So the next battle report I've got coming is probably going to be one from Bayou Battles. I've got our group meets on Mondays, so I might grab a camera, since I don't know, the one I've got doesn't look like it's working very well, and take some pictures. But we'll see. If not, I'll definitely grab at least one of the games from Bayou Battles, where probably Saturday night when we've all been drinking quite a lot. So I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks very much for dropping by, and if you have any comments, please leave them in the box below. Thank you.